Dear students, today I am going to talk to you about the political history of the Deccan in between the period 753 to 975 CE. This period was marked by the rise of the Rashtrakutas, one of the most important regional powers which established their dominance and their superiority in the Deccan area. First, I'll talk to you about the origins of the Rashtrakutas. There are several theories regarding their origins. Initially, what we find that the copperplate inscriptions and the Sangam grant of 871 CE refer to the mythological origin of the Rashtrakutas by linking them with the Jadu Vamsha or the Jadu lineage. That is, they are regarded as the descendants of Jadu, the son of Jajati. And as we all know, Lord Krishna also belonged to this family of the Jadus. This mythological origin of the Rashtrakutas kind of give them a divine sanction and has made their establishment as a power more meaningful to the common people. But apart from the mythological theory, there are other theories also regarding the origin of the Rashtrakutas. The word Rashtrakuta often refers to as the chief of a Rashtra or a state. We find several such inscriptions which quote this particular word, the Rashtrakuta, as the chief of a state or some administrative official. So, it can also be taken as the Rashtrakutas originally were were working in some official capacity and they came to power as officials of certain states or certain areas. Next, we come to some other diverse theories regarding their origins, and that is forwarded by several historians like A.S. Altekar, like Bernal or C.V. Vaidya. They are focusing on the different theories regarding the origin of the Rashtrakutas. Attempts have been made by A.S. Altekar to connect the Rashtrakutas with the Rathikas or the Rattas as mentioned in the Ashokan inscriptions. On the other hand, Bernal considers that the Rashtrakutas belonged to Andhra Pradesh and their language was Telugu. So the Reddis or the Raddas of the Andhra Pradesh, they were connected with the Rashtrakutas as such. And the word Reddy or Radda originated from the word Rashtra. C.V. Vaidya is of the opinion that the Rashtrakutas belonged to Maharashtra and Marathi was their language. Next, we come to some evidences regarding the Rashtrakutas, which refer to several rulers as Lattalura Puravesha. This is a title which is used to describe several rulers residing in different parts of Maharashtra and Karnataka. What exactly is the meaning of the word Lattalura Puravesha? It means the lord of the great city of Lattalura. Now, this Lattalura is identified to be Latur, which is located in the border area of Karnataka and Maharashtra. So, on the basis of such evidence, we can conclude that the Rashtrakutas belong to this area at one point of time and their rise also was from these locations. Now I'll talk to you about the actual lineage of the Rashtrakuta house. Danti Durga, who is regarded as the founder and one of the most established ruler of the Rashtrakuta dynasty, ruled from 735 CE to 756 CE. The Dashavatar inscriptions of the Ellora cave and the Samangarh plate inscriptions, they point out to Danti Durga's achievements, particularly his military prowess and his success in extending the Rashtrakuta kingdom. Danti Durga's first exploits were against the Arabs. At this point of time, he was ruling as a feudatory of the Chalukyas of Badami. When the Arabs attacked Navasari, there the ruler was Pulakeshin, who belonged to the Chalukyas of the house of Lata. Pulakeshin was also a feudatory of the Chalukyas of Badami. So it so happened that Pulakeshin and Danti Durga, they joined hands against the Arabs, defeated them completely, and reduced them to such a level that they were kept at bay from Gujarat for a long time. Danti Durga was conferred upon the title of Khargavaloka, that is, the one whose very sight reminds people of a kharga or a dagger, and this title was conferred upon him by Vikramaditya II, the Chalukya ruler of Badami. As long as Vikramaditya II was there, the Danti Durga remained a loyal feudatory to him. But after Vikramaditya's death, Danti Durga focused on establishing his own power and on extending his kingdom. At this point of time, there was no paramount power in Malwa or in Madhya Pradesh. Danti Durga focused on these areas. He overpowered the Gurjaras who came from Rajasthan and as well as the Chalukyas of Lata. Malwa was annexed and Ujjaini was also conquered. The Gurjara king was humbled and reduced to such an extent that he was considered to be a pratihara or a doorkeeper. And from this time onwards, the Gurjaras were termed as the Gurjara pratiharas. Danti Durga not only overpowered the Gurjara king, but after establishing his control over Ujjain, he performed a ritual or a jagga, which is known as the Hiranyagarbha Dana Jagga. And the purpose of this jagga was that the sacrificer, he attained the Kshatriya status in his next birth, although he was not a born Kshatriya. Not only that, as a mark of his victory, Danti Durga offered a gem-studded crown to the deity Lord Mahakala of Ujjain. With Danti Durga's rising power, naturally all the Chalukya houses were started going against him. The Chalukyas of Lata, the Chalukyas of Badami, or the Chalukyas of Vengi. With all these houses, Danti Durga had to confront to continue with his supremacy. But ultimately, they were all overpowered, and the entire Maharashtra came under the control of Danti Durga. Danti Durga, as such, assumed the title of Maharajadhiraja, Parameshwara, Param Bhattaraka, and the Chalukyas were overpowered, although they were not completely destroyed. The Pallava king Nandivarman also confronted Danti Durga, contested his supremacy. However, he too had to surrender, gave his daughter in marriage to Danti Durga, and established friendship with him. Danti Durga was the real founder of the Rashtrakuta house. He was actively involved in religious rituals and offered grant to the Brahmins. His valor and diplomatic skills paved the way for the emergence of a new power in the Deccan. Danti Durga was succeeded by his son Krishna I. Krishna I ruled from CE 756 to 774 CE. He established himself again as a great conqueror. What I should like to point out is that the Chalukyas, they kept on cropping up, throwing challenges to the supremacy of the Rashtrakuta house time and again. They were overpowered, but again, in some form or other, they came up. So what you will find that all the Rashtrakuta rulers, they had to confront the Chalukya house at one point of time or other. So Krishna was also not an exception. Also, Danti Durga has overpowered the Chalukyas, but Krishna again had to confront them. Krishna I concentrated on overpowering the Chalukyas. Kirtivarman II, the Chalukya ruler, was defeated in 760 CE, and this is supported by Vani Dindoni and the Radhanpur grants of Krishna I. Entire Karnataka now came under the control of the Rashtrakuta house. Krishna also overpowered the Ganga dynasty of Mysore and looted their treasury. The Chalukyas of Vengi now challenged supremacy of Krishna I, but they were also humbled. So this is the continuous story of confrontation between the Rashtrakuta house and the local rulers who were challenging them, but ultimately the supremacy of the Rashtrakutas were established. So what happened that Vishnuvardhan, who was the Chalukya ruler of the house of Vengi, surrendered some parts of his territory to Krishna's son Govinda, married his daughter off to Govinda's younger brother Dhruva, and thus established peace with the Rashtrakuta house. So apart from Maharashtra, Karnataka, a large part of Deccan and now Konkan also came under Krishna I's control. The next important ruler of the Rashtrakuta house was Dhruva. Dhruva ruled from CE 780 to 793 CE. Dhruva was opening a new era in the history of the Rashtrakutas. He assumed the titles of Dharavarsha and Nirupama Kali Valla. The Gangas became the first victim of his aggressive policy. Dhruva, in spite of the valiant fight of the Gangas, could overpower them. Gangavari was added to the Rashtrakuta kingdom. This battle is corroborated both by the Rashtrakuta sources and the Ganga inscriptions. Dantivarman, the Pallava king, offered Dhruva an indemnity and saved the city of Kanchi. The overlord of Vengi, though father-in-law of Dhruva, was also humbled and was forced to accept peace terms. The victories in the south made Dhruva both powerful as well as confident, and he decided to interfere in the North Indian politics at this point of time. As we all know, Kannakubja or Kannauj was the seat of North Indian political scenario since the time of Harshavardhana. Both the Gurjara Pratiharas as well as the Palas from Bengal, they wanted to establish their supremacy in the North Indian politics and to conquer Kannauj. Dhruva too decided to interfere in this scenario. He organized his army and himself led the army in order to join in the tripartite struggle with the Vatsaraja, the Gurjara Pratihara king, and Dharmapala, the Pala king of Bengal, in order to overpower Kannauj. Dhruva added the emblem of Ganga and Jamuna to his imperial flag as and when he defeated both Vatsaraja, the Gurjara Pratihara king, as well as Dharmapala, the Pala king from Bengal. This was indeed a remarkable success for Dhruva. Next, we'll talk about Govinda III. He was the most successful and the ablest ruler of the house of the Rashtrakutas, who dominated the political scenario between 793 and 814 CE. Dhruva was succeeded by Govinda III, the most able one among all his sons. After assuming power, Govinda III, he took the titles of Prabhuta Varsha and Jagattungu. Later on, he also assumed the titles of Janavallabha, Kirtinarayan, and Tribhuvana Vadhval. These are some of the titles assumed by him. And all these titles were based on the kind of successes that he got during his rule in the Deccan. There was a possibility of a civil war at this point of time because Govinda III was not the eldest son of Dhruva. Stambha, who was the eldest son, he kind of conspired against his younger brother as he wanted to assume the supreme power. He was supported by some of the administrative officers. Not only that, Stambha also created a federation of 12 kings, and this federation was led by the Pallava king Dantivarman. However, this federation could never achieve much as Govinda attacked Stambha. He defeated Stambha and ultimately forced Stambha to reconcile and to make up with his younger brother. Stambha now was given the post of a Uparaja of Gangabari, where he ruled till 810 CE. However, the Ganga prince as well as the king of the Kanchi, who supported Stambha in this conspiracy, were punished by Govinda III. They were either imprisoned or they were vanquished, and Govinda III became the lord of the entire Deccan. Govinda's ambition also started playing an active role in the North Indian political scenario. He started taking interest in the North Indian politics, entrusting his younger brother Indra to take care of Gujarat as well as the different passages from the Vindhyas. Govinda advanced towards the north, that is, towards Kanauj. And here again he confronted the Gurjara Pratihara king Nagabhatta II, as well as Dharmapala was also there. Nagabhatta II was defeated by Govinda and Dharmapala took a neutral position. So again, what we find that in the North Indian politics, the Rashtrakuta supremacy was established over Kanauj. However, Govinda did not annex this area directly to his empire. But we find in the inscriptions that there is a saying that the Ranavaris of Govinda's army, that is the trumpets, the war trumpets, they reached the Himalayas. That is how the inscriptions celebrate this victory of Govinda III. So, Govinda ultimately came back from northern India and returned to the south. However, at this point of time, the several regional South Indian rulers, like the house of the Chalukyas, they were still there, and the Cheras, the Keral, the Ganga kings, the Pandyas, they all joined hands against the Rashtrakutas. In his absence, they decided to make the most of it and to get hold of some of their power, to get back some of their power. But that was not to be the case, as Govinda, as soon as he came back to the south, he overpowered all these rebel rulers. The Rashtrakuta army entered Kanchi and Tanjavur. Govinda went as far as Rameshwaram. Even the king of Sri Lanka, he sent Govinda 2 statues, one of himself and another one of his minister, as a mark of reverence to Govinda, to his power. And Govinda III brought back these statues to Mannakheta, the capital of the Rashtrakutas, and placed them there as a mark of victory of his conquest in the south so far. The Rashtrakuta inscriptions described Govinda as the Arjuna of Mahabharata, or compared him with Arjuna. Both in internal as well as in the external policy, Govinda III showed political judiciousness, administrative skills, and military prowess, as a result of which he became a supreme ruler and honored the house of the Rashtrakutas. Govinda III was followed by Amogha, who ruled from 814 CE to 878 CE. Amogha, he ascended the throne at the tender age of 13, and he was represented by a regent, Karka Suvarna Varsha. Amogha Varsha had to spend most of his time fighting with several rebellious rulers of the south. As a result, he did not have much time to interfere in North Indian politics. Not only he had to overpower the rebellious rulers from other houses, but there was some infighting also within the families of the Rashtrakutas. The Rashtrakuta line, which had established their superiority in the Gujarat area, they also challenged Amogha Varsha. Ultimately, the feuding family members, they settled down and arrived at an understanding in between themselves in view of the threats by the Gurjara Pratihara kings and the Bhojas of the Malwa. Amogha Varsha was a patron of literature and art. He was an accomplished scholar in Kannada and Sanskrit language. He wrote Kaviraja Marga, one of the earliest Kannada work on poetics, and Prashnottara Ratnamalika in Sanskrit. He was deeply impressed by the teachings of Mahavira, but he did not become a Jain. He is compared to Emperor Ashoka because of his religious temperament and his peace-loving nature. He is also called the Ashoka of the south. He is again compared to the Gupta king Vikramaditya, as he patronized men of letters. By 972 CE, the opponents of the Rashtrakuta joined hands and ransacked Rashtrakuta capital Mannakheta and put the city on fire. This brought an end to this glorious house and this reputed lineage. The Rashtrakutas were mainly ousted by the Samantas, the Shilaharas, and there came an end to their supremacy. Now I will talk about the administration, the army, and some other aspects of the Rashtrakuta rule. First, I will refer to the administrative structure of this house. The position of the king was indeed the supreme, and it was hereditary. He was supported by a council of ministers, and this council of ministers also included the head priest, who held a very important position, and he was known as Dharmankush. The king was supported by the prime minister and the foreign minister. The division of the empire was in Rashtra, Vishya, Bhukti, and village. The Rashtra was administered by the Rashtrapati, who was responsible directly to the king. The total number of Rashtras were 25 to 26. The Rashtras were again divided into Vishyas, which were ruled by the Vishyapati. The post was often hereditary, and some of the officers enjoyed feudatory status too. The Bhukti consisted of 100 to 500 villages administered by the Bhogikas or the Bhogapatis. Smaller units of the Bhuktis consisted of 25 to 50 villages. The smallest unit of administration were the normal villages, which were ruled by the village headman or Gramapati or Gramakuta. He had to collect revenue and also to take care of the law and order situation. Next, I am going to talk about the military structure of the Rashtrakuta Empire. Since the Rashtrakutas were continuously involved in warfare, the formation of a big and efficient army was mandatory for them. People across caste and religion were recruited in the army. And its headquarters was at the capital, Manna Kheta. Even the soldiers were collected from the feudatories and they were absorbed in the main army, while the officials, whether in administration or in the army, received land grants. The regular forces were paid in cash. The army was composed of powerful infantry. There were elephants too. Arabian horses were procured to enhance the strength and speed of the army. The army general enjoyed an important position almost as a Mahashamanto. Next, I'll talk about the status of the feudatories. In the Rashtrakuta polity, the feudatories were held by the chiefs of the old royal families who acknowledged the suzerainty of the emperor. There were many vassal states under the Rashtrakutas. Revenue was collected mainly from tributes paid by these vassal states as well as the feudatories. Land tax was important and known as Bhagakar, which were collected throughout the year in 3 installments. There was an important sector, that is the coinage. Rashtrakutas used both gold and silver coins. Drama, Shuvarna, Gandhyanaka, Kalanju and Kasu were some of the coins used by the Rashtrakutas. In the area of religion, the Rashtrakuta rulers were extremely liberal. They worshipped both Vishnu and Shiva. However, the later rulers like Amaraghosha patronized Jainism too. Religious tolerance was a strong point of this lineage. Society was divided into castes, and in this social structure, the Brahmanas, they enjoyed a very important position. They received land grants from the rulers in lieu of the services that they offered. Kingship, however, was no longer confined to the Kshatriyas alone, and they were still, although the Kshatriyas were still quite eminent. The status of the Shudras and the untouchables remained unchanged during this period, they being the lowest in the social hierarchy. The position of the women were more or less, as we can see, they were married off at an early age. They did not have any direct share in the property if they had brothers. Custom of sati was, however, unknown in the Deccan during this period. Economy. If we look in the economic sector, we can find that there are several evidences. Both we can learn from the inscriptions as well as from the literary evidences and the writings of, that is particularly the writings of the Muslim writers, that maritime trade was carried on with the Western countries as well as China. In the sphere of art and architecture, it was a very rich period. Particularly, one should mention the construction of the Kailash temple, which was a milestone in the field of architecture during this period. In conclusion, we can say that the Rashtrakutas were one of the foremost powers of the Deccan in the early medieval period of Indian history, and they had a specific focus in their political and military designs. As a result, the empire extended remarkably from the extreme south to some portions in the north. The Deccan became a stronghold of the Rashtrakutas, and the far south for the first time witnessed a successful involvement in the North Indian politics. Both in military and diplomatic skills, the success of the Rashtrakuta rulers were time and again remarkable. Deccan was economically strong and prosperous. Under them where commerce and several industries flourished. The rulers were tolerant in their religious views, as is shown in their patronage of Jainism. Apart from Shaivism and Vaishnavism, even the Muslim traders who were residing in different parts of the Rashtrakuta Empire, they were allowed to settle down and to follow their faith peacefully. This was indeed a very strong point, and it showed the liberal attitude of the rulers. Education and literature received royal patronage, and the period witnessed the development of Kannada literature apart from Sanskrit. So, with the rise of this regional power militarily as well as politically, we can also see the development of regional language and regional literature. Construction of the rock cut temple of Ellora, as I have already mentioned, was a part of the achievement of the Rashtrakutas.